Welcome to the next video in the JJ Futures Bootcamp, and today we're going to be covering external and internal liquidity. So what is external and internal liquidity? So they are areas or highs or lows where price action is drawn towards. So we know naturally that price is drawn towards these highs and lows. We've covered liquidity sweeps, so we know what that is, and let's jump right into it. So we marked out New York AM right here. This is from Friday's price action, so before the weekend. And I marked out just some points of external and internal liquidity. So we have 9:30 open. I believe we had news. And so this low right here would be external liquidity. 9:30 open. This would also be a data low, but that's besides the point. So we mark out. This is liquidity. We go up, and we make this next high. So these 2 points right here would be the external liquidity for the session. So we mark them out, external right here, external right here. We see when we go up, we make this low right here. So this would be internal liquidity. So price moves, we know that price action moves in kind of like the squiggly like ups and downs. So like chop, 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 chop. The way price action works, it takes a high, goes down to the next draw on liquidity. So we see that when price moves, creates these 2 highs, and it goes down and takes this internal liquidity. So when it takes internal liquidity, we have to find where the next draw is. And since within this range, there's no other highs or lows, we know that the price is going to go to the next draw, which is this external liquidity. So basically, when internal liquidity is taken and there's no other internal liquidity points, we know that price is going to go to external liquidity. So when internal liquidity is taken right here, this is a good indicator that price is going to move back up. So right here, we would look for a fair value gap. We would look for an inverse. We would look for any sort of higher time frame rejection, and we would take it to this external liquidity. When looking at external and internal liquidity, we have to be conscious that when external is taken, we expect big moves to the opposite direction, whereas internal liquidity, we expect movement inside the range that was created when marking out these external. So external here, this is the range. When internal is taken, we either expect the next, when internal is taken here, in this case, there's no other internal liquidity. We expect price to move back up to the external liquidity point, vice versa. And like I said, when external liquidity is taken, we expect to see big moves to the next external liquidity point. And then internal, we kind of see like these little choppier moves. So you just have to be conscious of these points. And then with time on the chart, you'll kind of see how price starts to move with these internal and external liquidity points. Okay, so because I couldn't find any good examples and my explanation of this may have been a little unclear, I just found this nice little guide online that someone made for us. So let's read the definition. External range liquidity will be the highs and lows of a range. For the example, a daily high or daily low. So like I said in this example before, it was just the high and low. It was the data low and then the external high. And then the internal range would be everything that falls in between these 2 points. So everything that falls in between these 2 points that's kind of a bad example, or a bad explanation. This would not all be like internal liquidity. It's just these clear points within this range. So we have this range right here, this huge range. Any clear highs or lows in this whole range would be internal liquidity. Okay, so the image is now gone. I was looking over the film and I realized that I missed a key point. So I didn't mark out this internal liquidity right here. So when we're in a range with external liquidity or clear external liquidity points, you mark out all the highs and lows on the inside. So I marked out this first internal low. And we see when this low gets taken, on the way down, we create a high, right? So this actually would be internal liquidity too. This would be an internal liquidity high. So when this internal liquidity is taken to the downside, the price moves back up and takes out internal liquidity on the high side. So it takes it out and then moves back down. So technically, it's kind of like one of those terms, or internal liquidity is one of those terms where like technically like price could just chop until infinity with just like highs and lows being taken. So you just have to look for these points, and then when you see like a kind of like a clear high or low get taken, you have to assume that price is going to go to either like the next clear high, and if that next clear high is external liquidity, then that's how that works. So if internal liquidity gets taken and there's no other clear internal liquidity points, then we kind of have to assume that price is going to go to the next liquidity pool, and that is external liquidity. Then when external liquidity is taken at this high, we assume it's going to go to the next big liquidity pool, and that is the downside, or these data lows, this external liquidity right here. But on the way down, price should chop, take out its own internal liquidity. So it should take out a high, take out a low. Then on the way down to the external liquidity, it should take out the internal liquidity. So this is kind of like a hard thing to understand. It's one of those things where you need a lot, like I said, you need a lot of chart time. And you need a lot of time on the screen and kind of understanding how price action works on the NASDAQ or ES to kind of see how it works. Basically, external liquidity, when it gets taken, we expect big moves. And then when internal liquidity gets taken, we expect smaller moves. And when internal liquidity gets taken and there's no other internal liquidity inside a range, we expect external liquidity to get taken. And that is the essence of how this works.